Hello friends, in this video we are going to see how the sales register or the purchase register gets converted into GSTR-3B. We all understand that the sales register and the purchase registers are the two prerequisite for filing the GSTR-3B. But it would be more important and worthwhile to know that what information gets reflected into which table, which column of GSTR-3B, so that the user doesn't make any mistake while uploading the sales register or the purchase register. So if we have a look at the GSTR-3B structure, the table 3.1 reflects all the outward supplies or the inward supplies wherever the tax has been calculated on reverse charge basis. Now this is the sample sales register downloaded from the Tax and Go application. Here the user enters all the necessary invoice details, which are the invoice headers and the line level details. The column A of table 3.1, which reflects total outward taxable supplies, considers all the transactions where the document subclass is invoice, advance payment or credit notes. Here, the system adds the transaction where the subclass is invoice and advance payment and deducts all the credit notes. It is important to know that in these categories, there may or may not be counterparty GSTIN, which means this particular column considers all the transactions irrespective of the fact whether they are B2B transactions, B2C transactions, further drill down of B2CS or B2CL transactions. Now, if we go to the second column, which is outward taxable supplies, which are zero rated, this is primarily as per the GST law, the exports. So wherever the document subclass is export, these transactions will get reflected into the column B of table 3.1. The third category is the nil rated transactions. Now these are the transactions where the tax of the GST applicability is zero. So wherever the document subclass is nil supplies, these transactions would be reflected in column C of table 3.1. The fourth is the inward supplies where the tax has been calculated on the reverse charge basis. So for this category, wherever the document subclass would be purchase and the reverse charge supply flag is set to yes, those transactions would be considered for this particular column of table 3.1. If we go to the next table, which is the detail of interstate supplies made to the unregistered person, composition taxable person, or UIN holders, it primarily reports all the unique place of supplies and the total transactions to made to these place of supplies. Now, this table primarily reflects all the B2C transactions, all or the sales made to composition taxable dealers. Now, it is important to know that the transaction where there is no counterparty GSTIN ID will be only considered for this particular table. In table 3.2, wherever the counterparty type is set to composition dealer, those transactions will also be considered to be reported in this table. Now, this table reflects all the unique place of supplies and the total taxable sales made into these place of supplies and the IGST tax calculated on them. Now, if we go to the table 4 of GSTR-3B, which is all the purchase related information and the eligible input tax credit, the first category is import of goods. So this is a sample purchase register downloaded from Tax and Go application where the user logs in all the purchase information with the necessary invoice header and the line level details. So the first category where the user has to report imports of good, the document subclass should be imports and the line type should be goods. So we have a specific column for mentioning whether the line type is good or sales. So if it's a G here, the system treats it as goods, and if the document subclass is imports, it is imports of goods. So all the transactions of these nature will be totaled here and reflected in column 1 of table 4. The next one is import of services. The similar transactions will be considered, but the only difference would be the line type would be equal to S. So wherever the line type is set to services, the system will consider all the import transactions and reflect in column 2 of table 4. The third is the inward supplies where the taxes had been calculated on the reverse charge basis. This would be the same information reflected in table 3.1 for the outward supplies. So the document class is set to purchases, and if the reverse charge supply flag is set to yes, all such transactions would be considered for the column 3 of table 4. For the fourth one, where the inward supplies are from ISD, it is again the counterparty type, which is set to ISD. These transactions would be considered and reflected in this particular column. All other ITCs would be the total of all your purchase transactions and deduction of the first four categories. So whatever is the balance input tax credit left for the user would be reflected in column 5th of table 4. The ITC reversed is primarily if there is any difference between the actual GST calculated on the invoice and the actual ITC available for credit. Whatever is the difference would be reflected in the ITC reversed column. This is primarily due to if the user has used the goods, input or capital goods for personal use and not for the business use, those credits would be reflected here. The net ITC available is of course the balance of the eligible minus the non-eligible credit. The table 5, which says the value of exempt or nil rated supplies, inward supplies, this table reflects all the transactions where the counterparty type is set to compounding dealer or the document subclass is nil supplies. Once the first four tables of GSTR-3B are correctly populated, the table 6.1, which is the payment of tax, is automatically derived by the system. The tax payable column reflects all the tax liabilities which are liable for the user to pay. The ITC column, of course, reflects the balance ITC which is available as eligible input tax credit, and whatever are the balances, short or more, are reflected here. By now, you would have understood the importance of each of the option available in the sales and the purchase register as to how it gets converted into GSTR-3B. It would be important that you understand the sales and the purchase register template first and make sure all the crucial information is available in the template, and only then you process your GSTR 3B. Thank you.